detecting autocorrelation. Now, we want to go ahead and see what are the various ways in which we can detect autocorrelation. By now, we have already understood what causes autocorrelation: inertia. Then we have cobwebs being causing autocorrelation. Then we have model specification errors causing autocorrelation. Then we have the problem of smoothing causing autocorrelation, or the problem of using different time periods causing autocorrelation. So by now, it is clear to us what causes autocorrelation in huge detail. At the same time, we have also understood what are the different things that happen, what are the different consequences of autocorrelation. So we have gone ahead and we have understood that although the estimators are linear and unbiased, they no more have the minimum variance. And because the variance becomes biased, therefore the t values, f values, r square, confidence interval, all of them give you wrong estimates. They don't give you the right estimates. So these are some of the problems that we saw because of autocorrelation. Now, as I have been declaring this in a lot of my lectures by now, please understand that I do not know sigma I square true value. I only know sigma hat square, because sigma I square is for a population and population is not at disposal. Therefore, I don't know what true UIs are. True UIs become unobservable. Now, we only know what EIs are, and we can only use these EIs to go ahead and calculate summation EI square by n minus k, which is sigma hat square. Now, we want to go ahead and detect autocorrelation, as is the case with heteroscedasticity. Because I'm using EI squares, therefore, I'm actually talking about autocorrelation within the sample. Population is not at disposal. Let's go ahead and look at the first method, which is the graphical method. To understand the graphical method, we know that we can plot the residuals against time. If you see any, and these are known as time sequence plots. If you see any kind of pattern being formed, then autocorrelation exists. For example, here with time, I see this pattern. Then autocorrelation exists. Here with time, I see a positive pattern. This is my time period. These are my residuals. Then autocorrelation exists. If with time I don't see any pattern, something like this, no pattern being formed, then there is no autocorrelation. Another and the most important test of autocorrelation is known as the Durbin-Watson d-test. First of all, you must understand how do we calculate the value of D. To calculate the value of D, we go ahead and find the error term. We bring the error terms to a lag. We find the difference between the two. We square all such values. We sum those values and we divide it by ET square. Please see this first. How do we do this? We'll go step by step. So you have given me some values of yi. Imagine your yi be any particular dependent variable, maybe my savings. And let's say that my savings depend on my personal disposable income, which is my XI. And you have given me certain values here. Now, what will be the first step that you will do? You will use the formula to calculate beta 2 hat, which will be summation xi yi upon summation xi square. Secondly, after you have calculated beta 2 hat, you will put this back and you will find beta 1 hat, which will be y bar minus beta 2 hat x bar. Of course, you can find the mean of y and x by doing summation y by n summation x by n. After you have found out beta 1 and beta 2, you can use this formula that yi hat will be beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat xi. By now, you would have calculated some value of beta 2 hat. You would have calculated some value of beta 1 hat, from which you will get an equation. You will put different values of xi's, and from here, by putting those values, you will get the values of yi's. You will subtract yi minus yi hat, and that will give you ei. It's written in T because it's a good idea. As I told you, a time series data set is most likely to have autocorrelation. So, we can put all of this in time period T instead of I. Now, after you have given me this error terms, you will put all these error terms here. Now you will find the lag of these error terms. So this error term will come here with the lag. This will come here, here, right? So all these error terms will come with a lag. So, if you have 40 coming here as error, this will come here now. If you have 38 coming here, this will come here now. If you have 27 coming here, this will come here now. If you have minus 15 coming here, this will come here now. So you will have all the errors with the lag. Of course, you will miss out on the first term because there will be no lag present here. Therefore, if you notice here, I am starting from t equal to 2. T equal to 1, lag will not be there. So you skip this up. Now you will go ahead and you will find et minus 1 whole square. So you will subtract it and square it. Subtract and square, subtract and square, and so on. And finally, you will add all these terms together. This will give rise to your numerator. Here only, you will square these values also. Et square, 40 square, 38 square, etc. And you will add them. Of course, this will start from the first term. So if you notice, in the denominator, my t starts from 1. Goes till n. This gives you the d value. This is how you go ahead and calculate the d value. So once you have calculated the d value, you have to go ahead and understand certain assumptions underlying the d statistic.